Thank you, Ms. Ernest, and I'm happy you're actually echoing our voices too. Without wasting much time, I would like to introduce the next presenter, who will be sharing with us the state of public financing in ECOWAS member states, and that will be Azubike Nwokoye, who is the program coordinator for Food and Agriculture, ActionAid Nigeria. You have 15 minutes.
Good morning, Honorable Speaker and members of the Parliament. For many of us that have been working in the agriculture sector, there are a lot of issues that we think the Parliament can help us to do so that we can have proper agricultural development. Just to say that we appreciate the work of parliamentarians, both at the national level and ECOWAS level, and in many of the sub-national level in states across board. And the parliamentarians are the closest to the citizens. And that is why we are particularly happy that the ECOWAS Parliament is committed to ensuring that the non-state actors are involved in all processes and that we all work towards achieving food security in West Africa. I will jump a lot of things because our colleague from the ECOWAS Department of Agriculture and Rural Development has really covered a lot of ground. And we hope that by the time we start the interaction, we will find a lot of ways forward. Just to say that, I mean, if you look at agriculture itself in terms of contribution, it is the only sector that can provide the needed job for all countries in Africa, and especially West African countries. We currently have a burgeoning youth population, and we also have a rising unemployment across many ECOWAS countries. And it is the only agricultural sector that can provide the needed jobs because when you do a value chain analysis, you find out that there are a lot of opportunities that needs to be filled. And now that ECOWAS member countries have also signed on to the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, it means that we have a lot of work. So we need to take urgent action towards ensuring that our agriculture is developed. If not, other countries, both the EU and others, China and so on, will be dumping their products on us. Agriculture, in terms of commodity, normally takes care of both our domestic consumption and exports, and we know that about 300 million persons need to be fed within the West African region, and we've seen several data of the kind of import that is coming in, food import into West Africa, means that we are losing foreign exchange and so on. So the sector is generally underfinanced, in the sense that the budget line items are not adequately supporting smallholder farmers, who are the majority producers in Africa. And we need to do something about that. The policies are there, the commitments are there, but we need proper financing and right targeting to make sure that they all happen. So, just to say that many West African countries have recommitted themselves to the Malabo Declaration and have also recommitted themselves to achieving the 10%. But we need to now ensure that that is done. I will jump this slide because ECOWAS Department on Agriculture have spoken to this, but I want to highlight many things within this, which I want to use this opportunity to draw the attention of the parliamentarians. If you look at this table, like what the first speaker now just said, you find out that I'll relate it to the next graph. Now, the Biennial Review started in 2017. So from the graph, you find out that before it started, as of 2016, investments across West Africa in terms of the agriculture sector has really dropped. But because of the Biennial Review, which is a process of accountability that makes countries to actually report progress with certain indicators, you find out that by 2018, there was a positive spike. So this means that the biannual review process and the joint sector review processes are getting countries to act more. And it's an opportunity for parliamentarians to also engage that space in terms of being able to provide oversight function to the executive across board, both at the ECOWAS level and in member states. I will jump this, and I mean, these are basically some countries that are doing well, which are, he had mentioned before, Mali, Benin, Senegal, Niger, and so on. Now, in terms of the performance of ECOWAS member states, which he had talked about, I want to bring your attention that there are some, even within the performance, there are some critical indicators which you all see in red. For instance, before I go to the ones in red, you see that one of the indicators is recommitment to CADIP. For many of us in the civil society sector, recommitment to CADIP is not a big deal. Why? Because basically, it just talks, I mean, basically is that you need to have a national agriculture investment plan document. You need to have policies in place that are all speaking to the issues of the Malabo Declaration and achieving the CADIP commitment. But what we have seen across board is that most times we have fantastic policies, but putting in the financing to achieve all this is not happening across board. So recommitment to CADIP is there, and many countries are doing well there, except Sierra Leone. But the other way around from what he presented, you could also find out that Sierra Leone in terms of investment is doing well. So we need to take all this context into account. Then enhancing agriculture finance, you can see that, I mean, in terms of the financing, you can see that all countries captured here are in red, meaning that they are not doing well, they are not doing properly, I mean, they are not, doing what needs to be done. And this component also includes access to credit for farmers. Then you can see that the target on ending hunger by 2025, that we need to also do something urgently, because every country here, except Benin and Mali, are in red also. So those are the things we need to look at critically. Halving poverty through agriculture, some are doing well, which you will see, while some are not doing well. Then, if we go to boosting intra-Africa trade in agriculture, most of them are also doing well, and some needs to improve. Then, but if you get to enhancing resilience to climate change, most of the countries in Africa, in West Africa now, are having flood issues, having little rainfall, crops are failing, and so on. We are not doing well there. Many countries are not doing well. Just to give you an example, we recently did an assessment and community scorecard across many states in Nigeria, for instance, and we find out that smallholder women farmers have not been benefiting from agricultural insurance services. And for us, we were worried because it was from a government institution that has existed for over 2 decades, but across board they are not benefiting. So this calls for urgent action. So you find out that in terms of investment in agriculture, the biannual review, like I said before, had actually, kind of stimulated countries. So parliamentarians should look into that. Now we've talked about there exists lack of commitment, and that needs to be tackled seriously because if countries are not committed, nothing will be done. And it means that we cannot achieve poverty eradication, and we cannot reduce hunger, and we cannot tackle the issues of climate change. CSO and farmer organizations, we are committing that we have the capacity to provide you needed support as parliamentarians. How do we do that? Across many countries already, we are doing yearly budget analysis and sending to the parliamentary committees on agriculture to help them to see the issues on ground during the budget process, and to also be able to ask the executive critical questions. We know that the parliamentarians most times are overburdened. Many of them at times belong to more than one committee. At times you come across some parliamentarians, even at the member state level, who is in more than 5 committees, and they are struggling to also cope. Apart from their committee responsibilities, they are also doing a lot of engagement as politicians. So we have the capacity to provide you that support. We also do community scorecards to help you see what is really on ground, and we have the capacity to provide that support. And this will go further to enhance your oversight functions on the agricultural sector. The former speaker mentioned that the challenge is many investments also go into recurrent, and capital component is not being paid attention to. Just to raise the alarm that even the little capital components, most times across many member countries, by the end of the budget year, is not 100% spent. So you find cases where recurrent is doing 100% at the end of the budget year, and if capital manages to do 40%, then the government will say they are performing, but it shouldn't be that way. Capital and recurrent needs to do the same percentage at the end of the year, and it is the capital component that actually goes into development for smallholder women, farmers, and youth. And oversight function and political will will ensure that member states do not deviate, like my other colleagues, from the 10%, so that we can move the agriculture sector forward. I will just leave you with some points to ponder upon. If agriculture is what could provide us the needed jobs, the needed opportunities, solve poverty eradication, because agriculture, in fact, even in terms of the parliamentarians seeking votes from citizens, if you do an analysis of those who really vote, the votes come from rural areas, and basically they are farmers. Women form a lot of the population, young people form a lot of the population, so the parliamentarians should take serious action to ensure that smallholder farmers, especially women and youth, are supported across board. Then, just to also emphasize that we will encourage the parliamentarians to ask their country government questions around the biannual review processes and what is happening. because we've also noticed that within the joint sector steering committees that many countries have set up, the parliamentarians, even their clerks of different committees, are not represented in those committees. And the parliamentarians need to have representation in order to know what is happening and be able to engage. On this note, I would like to say thank you for your kind attention.